Good morning, good afternoon, or even good evening, depending on where in the big wide world you happen to be right now. So in Japan, where I live, it's still morning, not for much longer, it's almost lunchtime. So soon it'll be afternoon, but right now it is still morning. So today I have an email from Emmy, and Emmy says, I can't understand what native speakers say. It's just too fast. So let's talk about that in today's video a little bit. So first of all, let's think about where this problem, this listening or understanding problem might come from. Now, a lot of people say that they have a problem with listening and they find listening hard, therefore they can't understand what people say. But I think often it's not a problem with listening as such, rather that it's more of a vocabulary problem, if that makes sense. People say that they can't understand what people say, but it's not that they can't listen to them or they can't hear them, it's that they simply don't know or are not used to the kind of vocabulary and phrases being used. And this could happen when, if for example you're learning from, let's say, textbooks. You're learning from textbooks and that textbook is using quite dry, quite very standardized English. And then you speak to a native speaker, and of course they don't speak dry, standardized English. They're probably using phrases and idioms and kind of ways of saying things, expressions that you're just not used to or that you haven't learned. So it's going to be quite hard to understand them. Again, that's not really a listening problem. It's more of a case of you're just not used to the kind of English they are using. So if it's conversation that you're having trouble with, then try to learn from conversations more. Either find materials that are really based on conversations and that are quite natural, or have more conversations yourself. Now, it also can be a listening problem in that if you're practicing or if you're always listening to things that are very, very slow, then it's going to be hard to suddenly listen to something which is very fast. And I think a lot of English learning materials do tend to be quite slow. My videos also tend to be quite slow. I speak quite slowly and I enunciate my words very carefully and very clearly in my videos. But my videos are not designed for listening practice. I want you to understand the content. I want you to understand what I'm saying. So I keep my English quite simple. So I speak quite slowly. But again, they're not designed for listening practice. So when you're trying to practice listening, I recommend that you try and listen to things that are natural speed as much as possible. Again, the best thing you can do is to try and find good materials that will give you the kind of the phrases and the vocabulary and the speed as well. Try and find materials that are really based on dialogues and conversations, and that will then help you to understand people in conversation. Of course, the other thing that you really just need to do is to just have more conversations and just get used to it. And yes, it is frustrating and it is kind of embarrassing in the beginning when you have to keep asking people to repeat something again and again and again and again, and you just can't understand. And yes, that is frustrating, but it will get easier. My advice is to basically don't make excuses for yourself. Don't avoid speaking to people or having conversations or anything like that because you think it's going to be hard to understand. Do it because it's hard to understand and it will get easier. Don't ask people to slow down for you. Just throw yourself in the deep end. Go for it, and it will gradually get easier over time as you get used to the speed, as you get used to the kinds of phrases people use, as you get used to the accent, whatever. And yeah, I guess accent is another thing. If you're used to listening to an American accent and then suddenly you're trying to listen to an Australian accent, it's gonna be difficult. Again, you have to get used to it. That is the key here to understanding and comprehension and listening and everything, is getting used to it.